You know, today I ran across a meme, and there was a lot of truth in that meme. It was talking about people that um, are poor. And one thing I want to say, because I'm poor, let's be real. I don't mind being poor. I've been poor most of my life. And it's taught me a lot of things, you know? But this meme, it said that, I don't know whose meme it was, so I wish I still had a hold of it to credit the person that it came from. So if anybody knows of that meme, please, by all means. But what it was talking about was the standards by which we often try to maintain to be able to keep a job. And that there's a lot of people today that are so financially deficit that they can't afford to buy a lot of the things that are necessary to keep a job. And I'll tell you, as someone who is in that particular situation, I mean, I'm lucky with my particular job. I mean, I have to walk to work every day. A lot of people wouldn't do that, you know? I walk 2.5 miles to work every day. Occasionally, I'm not able to get a ride, so in the mornings, every night pretty much, unless it's raining, I walk. But occasionally, in the mornings after work, I have to walk home that same 2.5 miles. And there was a lot that meme said about the truth in that. And not only that meme, but there's a gentleman named Darman, and I'm not like trying to call him out or anything, but I just want to credit him for the video that I saw that he did. And it was about this homeless man confronting someone who was by all intents and purposes wealthy, and asked him for some change. Well, that homeless man in this guy's video got pretty upset when the guy had none to give him. He's like, man, you're driving around in whatever vehicle, and you know, a high-end luxury vehicle, and you look at how you dress and everything, and you can't afford to give somebody like 50 cents. Like, what are you doing? And my goal here isn't to try to shame wealthy people either. What I am going to try to express is that same video, the wife of the homeless man walks up, and here this man, this wealthy man, had given his money to this homeless man's wife a little bit before, and she got groceries with the money. Well then, out of the goodness of his heart, the wealthy man offered a job to the homeless man. Now, the imagery of that's all great. But going back to that meme and how it ties to that video, how long do you think that homeless man is going to last at that job that gentleman, that wealthy man is offering? The homeless man, he has no home. Is he going to be able to take a shower every day to work? Is he going to be able to afford the clothes to get there, or to work there? Is he going to be able to afford a vehicle to get to work? There's a whole slew of a problem that I see in, maybe it's worldwide, but I only have experience of America and what I see happening in America. And so I'm going to use that as the going trend. I imagine it's a problem everywhere, but it's definitely a problem here. When you don't pay your workers what they're worth, it's very difficult for them to be able to maintain the level that you also require of them in appearance, personal hygiene, in transportation, or even a place to live. And from my own personal situation, like, it's not always exclusively that person's fault that they're in a bit of a spot. Bad things happen. It's not always about choice. Could I have made different choices to be in a better place? I don't know. I can't go back. I can't fix it. I can't change it. I know what led to my decisions and choices, but is that really, that hindsight, is that really something that I should shame myself for? Or is it something that I feel that as a very skilled worker on many fields that I should be shamed for or not paid for, you know? And then people will say, oh, well, you know, you couldn't afford that TV. You shouldn't have bought that TV. Or, and this part isn't my case. I don't typically spend money on stuff like that. That's not really what I do. If I can't afford it, I can't afford it, you know? And what I can tell you is that on every level, people's the same. They want to live their life, right? They don't want to spend their life in a job. I mean, okay, maybe there's some that do. I mean, for heaven's sake, like, I spend, I'd say probably 70 to 90% of my life working, but part of that is what I do here, trying to promote myself, my art, and everything like that. But not everybody has that. Some people, all they have is their ability to work, manual labor or whatever. But then when you require them to wear specific clothes and all that, and then you expect them to not want to live their life, I see more and more people all the time. I hear more and more stories of people working 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week. I'm sorry, but that's not a life. That is not a life, and it is not a very acceptable thing as far as I'm concerned. Why is it the going trend that we should slave our life away? Yes, slave. Because if you're not enjoying life, if you're not living your life, you ain't happy. And a lot of people turn to substances, controlled or uncontrolled substances, in order to fill that void of not being able to live their life, because that's all they got time for. That's all they can afford. I know that seems kind of contradictory, but at the same time, like I said, you want to live your life. If you can't live your life, man, it's going to tear you down. Just like, think of a wealthy man. Think of a wealthy man, and then all of a sudden, like, he loses everything. How many stories have you heard of a wealthy man losing everything and then he kills himself because his whole life is just gone? You know, I've lost everything in my life like 3 times, and I'm building back, you know. And I can tell you with certainty that this last time especially, had I not made an oath not to, I probably would have killed myself. I was in the darkest place that I've ever been. And I'm better for it now, but back then, I didn't want to live. I lost the person I was in love with. I lost my marriage. I lost my financial stability. And things do get better, but at the same time, I think that there are too many people that are caught up in stuff in their own pocket rather than looking at the reality that they're not the only ones that want to live their life, and they've only got the same amount of time in their life that anybody else does, in a day than anybody else does. And yeah, not everybody wants to work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, non-stop. I'm just lucky that I can live my life and do some of the work that I do at the same time. But like I said, not everybody's got that. I think we need to, especially after all this COVID-19 and the riots and everything, we need to really look at ourselves as a human species and consider what we're doing to each other. We need to stop thinking about ourselves and when our next vacation is, and worrying more about the people that get us to be able to have a vacation. And there's not enough of that happening. When the bottom standard barely affords you a place to live, if it even does, barely affords you a vehicle, transportation, if it does, how are you ever going to be happy? How are you ever going to be able to live? How are you not going to be dependent upon that next thing, you know, that next thing that brings you happiness? How are you not going to be dependent upon that? And I'm talking about controlled substances. And the depression that comes from not being able to have a fulfilling, enjoyable life, man, there's enough wealth for everybody to go around. And you can call me communist, whatever else. I'm not trying to be communistic, but what I'm trying to say is you need to pay your workers what they need to enjoy their life, you know? And he can use the excuse that people are going to abuse it, whatever. Man, somebody's always going to abuse it. The abuser cannot be the gold standard anymore. Going forward, the abuser cannot be a gold standard anymore. Evolve. Progress. Come on, man. This is 2020. And things are being run the same way that they were 2,000 years ago. Let's evolve as a humanity and look out for each other. Work together. Work together and help each other instead of just trying to take from everybody, you know? How do you really expect somebody to work for you if they can't afford the things that they need to be able to work for you? It just can't happen. You got to pay your workers, man. You got to take care of your people so they'll take care of you. There's so much research going into a happy worker does more work. Read it yourself and find defenses against the people that abuse it, because there's ways to go about dealing with that. Maybe listen to them for once. Maybe there's a reason. Yeah, some people are just lazy, but maybe there's a reason they're lazy. Maybe there's a reason they're down. Take a moment and find out what that is. Care about your fellow man. Please, I beg you. Because with everything that's been going on in the world, it's not about you anymore. We need everybody to make this all work. There's a lot of things on the horizon that don't look necessarily good for everybody. And you got to be there. If you need your workers, right? Your workers need you. It's all about working together. Anyhow, I hope y'all like what I have to say today, and take care of yourselves. I love you. Thanks for looking.